Alberto Fernandez.
It's great to see you.
I was a citizen of yours yesterday.
Lo sé.
Me dicen que ha sido una gran reunión.
I'm told it's been a very good meeting.
One very good.
Sí.
Bueno, lo celebro, es un gran amigo.
I'm happy to hear that. He's a great friend.
Un gusto.
Great to meet you.
Realmente es fantástico.
Para mí también conocerlo.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Como siempre suelo decir yo, creo que me hizo muy feliz su triunfo en
I can tell
Estados
I was
Unidos.
so happy to know you came into office.
Al mundo le hizo mucho bien.
It did the world a whole lot of good.
You have such a physically beautiful country.
Y un país tan hermoso.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Case of the president's son, they've done nothing with it at all, no indictments, even though, as you also know, there is evidence of felonies on that laptop. So what is this about? Well, it's possible the FBI is working with Hunter Biden. The New York Post now reporting that Hunter Biden had an FBI mole called One Eye, and this mole tipped off Hunter Biden's Chinese business partners that they were under investigation. That is according to an Israeli energy expert who was arrested last month in Cyprus on gun running charges. And it looks like he may be innocent. We don't know. Miranda Devine is on this story as it develops. She joins us tonight. So those are the outlines, and I apologize if I've misstated them, but will you just kind of sum this up? This is an amazing story, it seems like.
Look, Tucker, it's actually bizarre. I mean, it's another bizarre twist on an already bizarre story about the Biden family and the cast of characters involved in their influence peddling scheme around the world. And Dr. Gal Luft is the latest one. He is an Israeli energy expert, a professor. He was arrested in Cyprus, as you said, and is still in a Cyprus jail. He's charged apparently with gun running and FARA violations and various things, and he claims that he is innocent and that he's only been arrested to shut him up about what he knows about the Biden family business. And, you know, a lot of his story does check out. He is regarded in his orbit in Washington, D.C. as, you know, he's well regarded. He's a legitimate energy expert. He's a former high-ranking officer in the Israeli Defense Force. He has multiple degrees. And he also talks about this FBI mole that he claims Hunter Biden used to tip off his Chinese partners that there was an FBI investigation into them. And there is some corroboration of that from the reporting that we've already done from the laptop. We know that Hunter Biden did have contacts within the FBI. We know that he used them to benefit at least one of his Chinese business partners, Patrick Ho. And when Patrick Ho was arrested at JFK by the FBI, Hunter Biden then contacted his FBI contacts. And we don't know what they did for him, but that sort of accords with this story that's coming from Gal Luft. And Gal Luft worked for 3 years in Washington, D.C. with Hunter Biden's Chinese business partners. That checks out too. So when he says that those business partners told him about what the Bidens were up to, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he knew about that was going to Hunter and his uncle Jim Biden every month, and their contact with this FBI mole, it just bolsters, I guess, the reporting we've done from the laptop.
So quickly, this Luft guy, the Israeli energy expert, as he was being arrested, he tweeted and said, "They're arresting me to shut me up. I have the facts about Hunter Biden." He's a smart guy. His social media is still up if you want to see it. It confirms he's a very smart person. Has he had anything else to say from his jail in Cyprus, do we know?
Look, through his lawyer, which is the only way I've been able to talk to him, he certainly has other allegations, but without documents or other evidence to back it up, you know, it's difficult to report those. He did get bail from the Cypriot courts a couple of weeks ago, but that has been vigorously opposed by US authorities, and I'm told by Gal Luft's lawyer that the ambassador in Cyprus is putting a lot of pressure to keep him in jail. They want to extradite him to the US on these charges of gun running and so on, which really baffle the people in Washington who've known Gal Luft for a long time, and they say that's not really in his nature.
Well, the Biden administration is getting set to push for an invasion of Haiti, and it's ramping up full steam as President Biden flying to Canada to meet with Justin Trudeau. Among the agenda items is that invasion of Haiti, trying to push Canada for their troops or forces to fly into Haiti so that I guess the United States doesn't have to do that. Meanwhile, the United Nations also separately trying to justify an invasion of Haiti because of human rights abuses, they say, in Haiti. To make sense of all of these moving pieces, we want to bring in Washington correspondent for Redacted, Dan Cohen. Dan, good to see you. So why is President Biden flying to Canada in order to push for this quote-unquote invasion of Haiti?
Well, ever since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021, the U.S. has planned for a military invasion of Haiti. Basically seen there is an armed movement that is growing and uniting neighborhoods called the Revolutionary Forces of the G9, led by a former police officer named Jimmy Cherizier, nicknamed Barbecue. And of course, we at Redacted have covered the story of Haiti and the G9 intensively. And you can see our reporting from back in November when myself and my colleague Kim Ives were on the ground reporting. But the pressure is really ramping up now. We saw this statement from, well, first we have the headline from the Washington Post, which completely confirms it, that there is a military intervention in the works. The U.S. very much wants it. And now we have a statement from the United Nations High Commission on Human Rights. And its spokesperson, Maria Hurtado, here's the exact quote from her. She says, "We call on the international community to urgently consider the deployment of a time-bound specialized support force under conditions that conform to international human rights law," et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty remarkable to me to hear this from the UN High Commission on Human Rights, calling for a military invasion of Haiti, especially knowing the horrific history of what previous foreign invasions, whether by the United States or UN so-called peacekeepers, have wrought on Haiti, from rape of Haitian women and many fatherless children to massacres to this kind of thing. So Biden is going to Canada to meet with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Thursday, March 23rd. He's heading out there, and apparently he's going to be putting some kind of pressure on Trudeau to carry out this intervention. And there apparently is some kind of hesitance from Trudeau to get fully involved in Haiti. 2 weeks ago, on March 9th, Canada's top general said that the Canadian military is actually stretched thin and that it does not have the capacity to carry out this military intervention in Haiti because of what it's doing in Ukraine, essentially for the United States. Now, Canada has already sent multiple shipments of armored vehicles to Haiti. Those armored vehicles were instrumental back in November when I was on the ground in Haiti in overcoming the barricade that Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier and the G9 had put on the Vera fuel terminal. And they had done in order to basically resist US and IMF imposed fuel price hikes. Canada has also sent further shipments of armored vehicles. They've deployed military surveillance aircraft and naval ships to patrol Haiti's coast. And even the Canadian military firm Incus, which manufactured those armored vehicles, ran a troll farm in order to gin up support for an invasion. And that's something we reported exclusively here at Redacted. So all of this, and the Canadian government says it's stretched thin over Ukraine. And according to Colin Robertson, who's vice president of the Canadian Global Affairs Institute and is a former high-ranking Canadian official who had posts inside the United States, he says to Reuters, quote, "The Americans, I think, are reaching a point where they are getting fed up." So on one hand, I have to wonder, is it sort of theatrical because there's really no daylight in general on foreign policy, in particular between the Canadians and the Americans? But then again, it may be that the Americans are really trying to push the Canadians to get in line to carry out this invasion, because the Americans, the Biden administration, knows that any American flag that is, planted down on Haiti is going to be totally rejected. The Haitians do not want any foreign invasion, and especially an American invasion of their country.
It's an amazing moment, right? When there's this maybe self-awareness now that we're trying to push our imperialism onto other countries to carry it out on our behalf. But I do love the response that you just mentioned from the Canadians, or at least the reports about their involvement in Ukraine is why they're stretched so thin. Because according to the reports I've read from the Global Affairs in Canada, there are only 24 deployed officers in Ukraine as of early 2022, and how many more since then? 24 soldiers. So Canada's army and military is stretched thin because of 24 people in Ukraine. Somebody's not telling the truth.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit fishy. I don't know. I mean, maybe Biden's gonna go there and pressure Trudeau to ramp up military spending. Like get up to that. All the NATO members have to spend at least 2%, and I don't think Canada is there. So maybe it is. It's really hard to tell. Is this sort of theatrical where it's, Biden saying, "Oh, we really need you to go do this," and Trudeau saying, "Oh, well, I don't know. We don't want to be involved," and appearing hesitant, in order to kind of de-emphasize the overtly imperialist, aggression that would be this military intervention. I do think one of the interesting aspects is Haiti is totally awash in violence. Maria Hurtado, the UN High Commission spokesperson on human rights spokesperson, cited the deaths of something like 500 people, 500 Haitians at the hands of because of gang violence to justify her call for military intervention. But the thing is, much of this violence, particularly since January, has been perpetrated by a gang leader and his group named Vidalom Innocent. And he's been the primary kidnapper this year and gang leader who's been clashing with the police, who's been killing innocent people. The thing is, he used to have a relationship with a political party called the Democratic and Popular Sector, which is led by a politician named André Michel. André Michel and his party are a mainstay of the de facto Prime Minister Ariel Henry's party, of his coalition, rather. So when the basically political appointments were handed out, this guy, Vidalom Innocent, got shafted. He got the short end of the stick. He wasn't given essentially the political power he wanted, and so he's gone on a rampage ever since and become the most prominent killer and criminal in Port-au-Prince and pretty much in all of Haiti. But for all of this talk about gang violence and people being killed, the intervention is not aimed at him. It is aimed at one of his rivals, Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, who is smeared as a gang leader, but is not a gang leader at all. And in fact, he's the only so-called gang leader that any of the Western press can go sit down and interview. And, like we talked about, we reported weeks ago, the AP can just show up at his neighborhood and demand an interview, and he even granted it to him. So this guy Vidalom has been completely terrorizing swaths of Port-au-Prince. His men even overtook the neighborhood of Pétionville, which is the wealthy suburb or wealthy area above Port-au-Prince. It's almost like in Los Angeles, if gangs that were fighting in South Central in poor neighborhoods went and one of them went and took over Beverly Hills. So it is major. It is a major development that this happened in Pétionville above Port-au-Prince. But nonetheless, the one person who this is really aimed at, this intervention, is the guy who's under U.S. sanctions, EU sanctions, Canadian, UK, and UN sanctions. That is Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier. None of the other so-called gang leaders are under sanctions like him, and the U.S. has repeatedly directly threatened him. So there's a sort of irony of who the Biden administration wants to target or wants Canada to target on its behalf.